Hello and welcome to the 23rd NFT Guild Roundtable. It's Wednesday, June 28th, and we are joined by Marek from Continuity Token, an innovative service dedicated to the preservation of NFTs on Cardano. And thank you for being here, Marek. We can dive right into your presentation. Give us a breakdown of your product, and let's see what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So as you mentioned, my name is Marek. I'm from the company called 5Binaries. We do a lot of Cardano infrastructure stuff. We are probably mostly known for the project called Blockfrost. But today I want to show you a new project we have, which is called a Continuity Token. And so the Continuity Token, the goal the problem we are trying to solve is the backup and preservation of Cardano NFTs in general. You may be asking, why do I need to preserve my NFTs when it's stored across thousands of decentralized nodes of the Cardano network itself? And the problem, as you may know, is the media itself isn't, right? We are most often storing just the hash to an outside network on the Cardano itself. And most commonly, this is on IPFS. So for those of you that don't know, IPFS is a network which is very similar to BitTorrent. It's a decentralized peer-to-peer network, but in this network, for the media to be online, at least one node of the network needs to maintain its copy. And this is where we come from with the Continuity Token. It's a very simple, straightforward service to the users. And it works, by the way, by purchasing the token and placing it in your wallet. We're actually going to scrape your wallet for all the NFTs, and we are going to back up all your NFT media that we find. Basically, what we do, we have three different plans. The first one is what we call the hot plan, which is the most basic one. So if you have just one continuity token in your wallet, we are going to back up all the NFT media we will find on our servers across the globe. We will do this by IPFS spinning. So this is very similar on what we are offering before for everyone. But in additionally, we are providing two long-term solutions. The cold plan, where if you hold at least 5 tokens, in addition to NFT pinning, we'll burn those NFT media on a carbon glass disk, and we are going to store this in an underground safe here in Prague. So this is not just any safe, it's not just a security deposit box, it's a real physical safe that has the same certification as central banks. And the other long-term storage plan, we call it the Arctic plan. When you have at least 50 continuity tokens, we are going to transfer your NFT media into a special film, and we are going to store it in an abandoned mine in the Arctic permafrost. So this has the longevity of at least a few thousand years. So I think that's pretty cool. You can just back up your NFT media, and in a few thousand years, some anthropological student will do a PhD thesis on your space bus or something.
Yes.
Yeah. So so in a very short, this is the overview of the project itself. You can go to the continuity.to website, and from there you have the links to our social media on Discord. If you have any questions, I think I'm here to I'm here to offer to answer them. One thing I would mention is why we actually launched this series. Something that not many people knew is, as 5Binaries, we've been pinning and backing up the Cardano NFT media of all NFTs on the Cardano network before. So we started this as a public service for the community, and when it actually grew too big, we asked for catalyst funding, and that funding already expired, but we were thinking that maybe it's time to move this responsibility to NFT users directly. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
it. So if you have any questions about the service.
Yeah, so this is a good, like you've talked about your three tiers, your hot, cold, and Arctic. How often are you moving things to hot and Arctic storage and stuff like that?
So like, if you have a higher plan, you are included in the plan level. So for the hot plan itself, we are doing the snapshot at every epoch change. So just like staking every epoch, we are taking the snapshot. For the one we are burning to the disk, we are doing it every 5 epochs. So every epoch that ends with 0 or 5, we are doing this burning itself. And for the Arctic one, that's a little bit more challenging before there is also travel involved and cooperation. We are doing this with cooperation with an organization called Arctic Web Archive, which is actually trying to preserve like digital media for future generations. So at the moment we have 2 snapshots coming up at the end of each of this month, and then we are thinking, depending on the demand, that we will do one big snapshot at the anniversary of the Mari hard fork, which introduced the ability to have like assets on Cardano. I think that's pretty poetic, and we will see. It really depends on the demand, because I mean the higher plan, the Arctic one, is not so cheap, right? Because it's actually really expensive to move this media into this special long-term storage film. As let's say, it's like the longevity of it is few thousand years. So I think that's pretty special.
I just want to mention that it's pretty neat that you just think about fucking thousands of years. This is insane. This is really cool. I wish there would be much more people.
Well, I think it's pretty cool to think that like the space buds will be around for more than we on this call. Like we'll be long dead when someone will discover them and just look at them and ask the questions. What is this? And like, what is Cardano? I need to go back in history, and hopefully everyone will know Cardano in a few thousand years, but maybe not. And then it will be have to have like a history student going down the archive of the internet to find out what we were doing. And maybe they will find this video in a few thousand years also.
Maybe. That'd be cool. So yeah, maybe for education, we can circle back to like, all right, so right now, most image files are uploaded to IPFS, and even your first tier is just pinning them to multiple servers. So can you tell us how that works, and how like essentially what the reason for a cost difference between your tier 1 and tier 2?
Yeah, I mean, the pinning itself is pretty straightforward. Anyone can do it. You can also do it on your workstation. You just have to run your IPFS server. It's the same, like I mentioned, with BitTorrent. Just one node should be online at all the time in order to display your NFT media. If no one has this image on the network, or it gets garbage collected, then you will just see like a blank page in your wallet, which is, I mean, less than ideal. You will still have your like hash of the NFT itself, but you will lose the digital representation, which I think it really is what we are trying to save here. And same as with BitTorrent, I think the more nodes, the more IPFS nodes that will hold your NFT media is better. I mean, we're all about the centralization. So there are other services to do it. You can just pin it yourself using services like Infura or even BlockFrost, and then you can also hold your Cardano token in your wallet, for example.
So are multiple people on your team hosting IPFS nodes?
Yeah, so now we have 3 IPFS nodes, like those major ones across the globe, and we are also testing a really small one, Raspberry Pi version. For something we are not yet promising it, but we really hope. We are looking to buy underground actually safe here in Czech Republic from the Second World War, and trying to store a Cardano node in there. So it's a little bit too much, and it's probably just for fun. Hopefully, nothing like a nuclear war will happen to disturb Cardano network itself. But I mean, it would be really cool if we can have at least some nodes for such a disaster recovery event running.
For sure. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but just in case. That's good. So if you pay for this service and you guys take backups of my NFT collection, and something happens in the future, what's the protocol to get to reconnecting with my data that I've given
so
to
this
you
is a
to
really
store?
good question, actually. So beside our team, there is a team of what we call Continuity Angels. And those are 5 people from the community, like Patrick, Alessandro, Shweta, pretty well-known people that have actually legal right to access the safe itself, our servers, but also to request the storage on the abandoned mine itself. So if something happens to us, if we cease to exist, either like a legal entity or if something happens to us physically, there are still like 5 people across the world that will have access to those files. And if you go to our website, just click on the team, and you will see there are actually pretty well-known names that you know from the community and are pretty trusted, I think.
Yeah, for sure. What about like in the future, like you gonna pass your keys to be able to access these safes and whatnot to your son? How you spanning generations talking about
Well,
that?
we will see. I mean, the only thing that really needs the keys it's the cold plan itself. With regard to the Arctic plan, that's actually public. So if in the future any organization requests access to it, the access will be granted. Like they can access and in a read-only manner this data, because this data is public anyway. If your NFT is on IPFS, the data is public, so there is no like general protection, and anyone can access it.
On IPFS, but for the
I mean, in the Arctic plan. So if something happens and you are a organization and you want to like access some of the data there, it's open to like everyone. But I mean, this is the most long-term storage, so probably you will find out on IPFS. But if really anything happens, that you have to go to the Arctic permafrost to retrieve it, it will be there.
It will be there. That's awesome. Anybody else have any questions?
Is there a limit on the size and type of files you're able to back up, or anything that's associated to a Cardano NFT works? So for instance, I know that there's been even films released as NFTs, and those naturally have a much larger file than a simple JPEG. So have you taken that into consideration?
Yeah, so what we have now written in our terms of services is that each token is good for 2 megabytes of data. We are not enforcing it right now, and we have something that we, of course, whitelist. For example, there is a project that is doing educational video on Cardano, and we just back that up anyway because we think it's like a really good public service that they are providing. So like if you have 1 token, it's 2 gigabytes, but I mean, if you hold 10 of them, it's 20. And for standard NFT media, it's we did calculation, and for those 2 gigabytes of space, it's like 8,000 space bits. So I think it's enough storage for most of them. We haven't seen it a wallet that would use more than that limit itself.
Cool. And how this is maybe a hopeful question, but if we have another bull run of sorts of Cardano NFTs and the market grows exponentially, are you prepared for spike in demand, and what plans you have in that regard if it happens like suddenly, and suddenly you have to back up, let's say 10 times more data than you're currently doing. So will you be able to accommodate a
Yeah,
surge?
definitely. I mean, just for example, we are ready for infrastructurally, we are calculating this for 10,000 tokens, and now only like not even 1,000 are sold. So we have much more room to grow. I think this will be more a long-term storage. What we plan to do in the future is not to mint more than 10,000 of those continuity tokens, and we will really leave it um, up to the community to trade those tokens. So I can imagine that the price of the token may rise before like some snapshots, and after the snapshot is done, maybe some people want to back up their wallet only once a year in the Arctic plan, but don't really care so much about like IPFS spinning. So I think we are really leaving it up to the community how the tokenomics and this dynamic will work.
So you're basically limiting the amount. It's not an open platform in the sense that you're not going to sell an infinite amount of tokens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
10,000
Right now,
is
like, yes, I mean, that's, I think, plenty for the community right now. And if the bull run arrives, that's up to the community. If they want to like sell those tokens for more, maybe it's really up to them. We don't limit it in any way.
Okay. What about tokenomics for the rest of, for tell me about the tokenomics of your mint and everything.
Yeah, so right now what we plan is the plan is to mint 10,000 tokens. The high maximum we have is 30,000 if we would see like a really high demand, but we haven't seen that, so we're limiting it to 10,000. And basically 96% is for public sale, and 1% has been distributed to the team, and 2% of those are distributed to the community angels like thanks token. So now it's like majority is for the community itself.
Yeah, sell the service. Awesome.
I
Go ahead.
saw on your website that you also have an option to partner with NFT projects. Is that outside of the scope of the actual tokens you're minting, or and tell us a bit about how does that work? How can a project approach you if they want to back up their NFTs?
Yeah, definitely. So if a project wants to back up their collection, we are actually open to that. They don't need to purchase the token itself. For example, we have a partnership with SpaceBats. So if you buy a SpaceBats, it's already backed up in the higher plan in the Arctic permafrost. So you don't have to buy the continuity token to back up those projects. And we are open to work with NFT collections. So if there is like an author and want to provide a little bit more service for the NFTs, they can reach us, and we will see what we can do. We are able to actually back up and preserve entire collections without the end user then having the need for the continuity token.
Which SpaceBot are you backing up, the V1 or the V2? Because we're owners of a V1 and have no plans to upgrade to the V2. The date is makes the SpaceBot a SpaceBot, but yeah.
Yeah. So same for me. Actually, Alessandro asked me to back up only V2 because he wanted to encourage people to migrate, but we are actually backing up both of them.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
But Alessandro is like, please move it.
Do you have any, this could be a slight pivot. Do you have any thoughts about how decentralized storage could be solved in our ecosystem
Well,
beyond
yeah,
IPFS?
Yeah, well, I think I really like IPFS because it's a really nice solution. The problem is like how you want to pay for the storage itself, right? There are different other projects on different blockchains, or some of them are like really their blockchain of own. And this is really problematic, I think, to get it right for some like long-term solution. I think many people like the project which I built on the assumption that the storage costs will go down a little bit problematic to me, like average, because they don't envision in their economics possible storage spikes. So we can see like the storage going up for just few months, and that would probably destroy those projects, right? Because like any new project will be so expensive uh, that the network economics will not work out. So I think that's a problem that is still to be solved, and I haven't seen anything interesting that that would be really awesome. And I don't think we'll see anything like in the next couple of years.
Okay, yeah, I'm always curious about that. It's become something I pay attention to.
Because Marek, you mentioned other blockchain as well. Do you have plans to go cross-chain?
Actually, someone asked us if we can do that the same on Ethereum, but right now we really want to. I mean, we as five binaries are focusing only on Cardano infrastructure, and we want to push Cardano as far as possible. That is why in the first place we started backing up all the NFTs on Cardano for free, because we have seen this as a problem in Ethereum space. Like in Ethereum, you have some old NFTs that are no longer on IPFS and no one can find the digital representation. And we started backing up those NFT for free from the day one because we really wanted to see the NFT ecosystem grow. And I think NFTs on Cardano have really good reputation right now. And I think a part of this is that you are not seeing missing images from time to time. So I think we did a pretty good job with this, and this is just a next step to really educating the community. So no, we don't have any plan to go cross-chain. I mean, if you have an NFT, migrate to Cardano.
This is okay, nice response. Really good.
Yeah, you like this service? Come here.
Yeah. Well, it would be actually cool if we would. I'm not sure if there are any project building that will provide a bridge for NFTs from different networks to actually migrate to Cardano. That will be pretty interesting to see over time. Like your NFT will be burned on Ethereum and you will have that representation on Cardano. That will be very cool, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some cross-chain projects, but not actually a bridge. I think we've been talking about this idea for almost 2 years. At one point, DC Spark hinted at maybe doing something, but I don't think that it ever materialized into. It's definitely a complicated topic to handle. And in the development of the project and all the steps that you mentioned, because it's pretty broad with all the different types of backups you're offering, did you encounter any hurdles that maybe could give some advice to other projects based on the difficulties that you had, or
Well,
like
we have actually a lot of experience running IPFS already from Blockfrost, so this wasn't anything new to us. Like we are probably running the largest IPFS cluster on Cardano right now. Like running IPFS itself is really painful. It's not a really mature project, and running big cluster with few terabytes of data is always painful because you have a few millions of those NFTs, and just to like resync to a new node takes few days. And yeah, it's really painful, but I don't think we have anything better than IPFS right now. Of course, the best is to have your NFT fully on chain, right? But there is a discussion also about like if we really need to quote unquote pollute the Cardano blockchain with this data. I mean, we are really growing rapidly, and I don't see there will be any pruning solutions in the short-term future. So I think we should be really careful with how much stuff we are putting on chain.
In terms of future plans, or let's say you sell out of the initial 10,000 token, and if there's still big demand in the community, have you thought about maybe augmenting the service and offering other plans?
Yeah, so what we are thinking about is if there is a demand for it, we will see. We would like to make this a little bit more decentralized. So it would be cool if actually anyone can run a backup node and will get like some loyalty rewards by the token that the community is holding. So right now, in the term, it's continuity token itself is centralized, right? It's just one entity, even that we have a backup in terms of continuity angels. But it would be really cool if this would be like an open marketplace where you would be able to get a continuity token as a user, but then as a provider, you will be able to run this service and get rewards for actually storing and backing up NFTs for other people.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. Especially the decentralization part.
Yeah, like we would really like to push this in a more like right now. Continuity token is like one of the many providers, but there is no easy way to have a marketplace for this. So in opening this up, also the software of the continuity token that anyone will be able really simply run a node that would provide those backups and just earn rewards just for running it. So that would be the future, I think.
Yeah. Individuals incentivized to run nodes to host its stuff. All right. Anybody
Even
else have
maybe
any?
stake pools. Like if you run a stake pool, why not to, the disk storage is actually pretty cheap if you compare it to other like computing or memory. So why not to run also a small IPFS node and earn some rewards once we get Babel fees or something like that on the side. So I think that the stake pool operators will have to provide more and more services in the future to actually to meet the demand, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they could be, yeah. That's how I've heard other people talk about how decentralized storage would work. There'd be some type of node similar to an IPFS node that a stake pool operator could run alongside their stake pool. Very cool. All right, anybody else have any questions? So you might be able to wrap this up early. It's been pretty succinct, but very, very nicely succinct actually.
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward service.
Yeah, it's good.
I had one more question before, if we're planning to wrap this up, like, just as a brief intro and a clarification. So how does, after you get a continuity token in your wallet, how does the process of actually backing up the content of that wallet work? And what's the lag there? Is there a significant lag, or if you can walk that?
Yeah, so we are actually taking the snapshots like when you buy the one for the hot pond, we are taking the snapshot at each epoch change. So you basically have to wait for the next epoch when we take the snapshot and pin everything. On our website, you can connect your wallet and go to the dashboard, and there you will see a list of your NFTs from the snapshot itself and the status. So the pinning process really depends on the availability of the file. It depends on how accessible is the file on the network, how like what is the internet connection of the peer we are fetching the file from, and also on the storage itself. But usually from experience right now, after the epoch snapshot is run and we start pinning those files, most of them are done within 10 minutes and all of them were done for an hour. There are few we have found that are already gone from the network. So we are trying to contact the NFT collection owners that like, hey, can you provide us with those files so we can upload them again to IPFS so they're available. But if you buy the token, just go to the dashboard and you will either see like waiting for the next snapshot, or after the snapshot is done, you will see the list of NFTs and what state they are in.
Nice. That was a good question. Yep. Plug in your wallet and look at the status. Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You came off mute, Rars.
Yeah, maybe as a final clarification on a lighter tone, your website mentions nuclear war, backup for nuclear war. I assume you're referring to the Arctic plan there.
Yeah, so actually also the safe itself should survive. We were mailing the provider of the safe and he said like, we don't have any certification for nuclear wars, but we are pretty confident it should be fine.
What if the whole IPFS network is down out of lack of electricity or something like that? I assume then that the Arctic backup won't necessarily help you in that case.
So actually, this is a really good question because we've seen few days ago when the IPFS network, because of a bug in their software, did stall for a few hours without anyone noticing. But the thing is, like, if IPFS network itself is somehow destroyed, the consensus is destroyed, we will go to the safe and we have this media stored in an IPFS format on this carbon glass disk. So we'll be able to actually restore all those files back to the IPFS network if something happens.
Okay.
Good. Awesome. Yeah, I had figured that would be how it worked, but that was well articulated for here. Awesome. All right, Marek.
I really hope that your individual perspectives on how things could be for 1,000 years really become a standard of what you're pioneering here. Really do it. This is very impressive. Just a responsibility of thinking so far and taking this approach. I think not many people do it, and I think that's massive value to lots of respect.
And I mean, a lot of people are spending a lot of money on this artwork, right? And I think it's just fair to know that they will survive you for 1,000 years. And I mean, it's pretty cool. I think that it's a little bit nerdy. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, why do I care? And my answer is, well, you might not, but I do care because it's really nerdy, and I just really envision this student that is doing his dissertation thesis on an NFT from 1,000 years ago, and he or she is trying to actually find out like what were space bats, why was it created, what was the story about, and they will go back into history and see all those flame wars we had on Twitter, like with each other in the early days of Cardano, and like discover all the history that we had to went through to actually build this NFT space.
What are you talking about? There's no flame wars here.
Well, it's up to the history to tell. Like, of course, it's no. We'll see how we
100%.
will be judged in a few thousand years.
Yeah, that's a beautiful dream to think about. Someone looking back. I've often had similar dreams, but locking it down in cold storage under the ground where a nuke can't even get it, and putting it in Antarctica where anyone can get it if something were to go worse. So cool having all this backup and redundancy available to the ecosystem. Yes. All right. Thanks, Marek. And with that, if anybody has any more questions or comments, hop in right now. If not, Let's wave.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, sir. All right. Peace.
Thank
Bye.
you for coming, Marek, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.